This is a story of blood, betrayal, and the blueprint that changed everything. The night Vivian Caldwell Osei went into labor, a summer storm rolled through Atlanta, like a warning nobody heeded. Lightning split the Georgia sky in two, and the nurses at Grady Memorial rushed her into the delivery suite, while her husband, Roland Osei, third-generation architect, proud scion of the Osei Group, paced the waiting room in his tailored linen suit, too vain to sit. The first cry came at 11:47 p.m. Bessa boy, strong lungs, broad chest, a full head of dark curls.
Look at our
Roland was called in, and the moment he held his son, something in him settled, some ancient tribal satisfaction that he could not name and would not examine. He held the boy up like a trophy under the fluorescent lights and said, "This is my heir." Then the nurse said, quietly but firmly, that there was another one coming. Vivian delivered the second baby at 11:59 p.m., 1 minute before midnight, 1 minute before a new day. A girl, smaller, quieter, her eyes already open and watching, as though she had arrived already knowing what she was entering. Roland looked at the baby girl, and something in his face closed. Not cruelty, not at first, more like disappointment, the way a man looks at a gift he did not ask for. Vivian, whose own mother had raised her in a household where daughters were burdens and sons were investments, felt the same cold current move through her chest. She had come from a place, a culture quietly imported even into the middle of Black Atlanta's elite, where women were ornamental at best, invisible at worst. They named the boy Marcus. They named the girl Zara, almost as an afterthought, the way you label a box you intend to put in storage. From the very beginning, the household was divided along invisible but unmistakable lines. Marcus had the bright nursery, the one facing east, where morning light poured in gold and generous, and Zara's room faced the alley. Marcus had the imported wooden toys, the baby grand piano in the sitting room reserved for his lessons, the pediatrician who made house calls. Zara had a nanny, a warm, wide-hipped woman named Miss Dottie, who came every morning smelling of shea butter and coffee. And in Miss Dottie's arms, Zara received the first real tenderness of her life. It was perhaps inevitable then, that when the children were old enough to notice such things, that Marcus began to look at Zara the way his parents did, as though she belonged to the help. By age 7, he had stopped introducing her as his sister at school. By 10, when his friends came over, he would find her in the garden sketching buildings on scraps of paper and wave a dismissive hand. "That's the maid's daughter," he'd say, and his friends would laugh, and Zara would keep drawing. She never cried in front of them. She had learned early that tears were currency she could not afford to spend. The one exception to all of it was Grandma Celestine. Celestine Osei, Roland's mother, was a force of nature in a silk wrap dress. She had built the Osei Group from a two-person firm in a rented office on Auburn Avenue into one of the most respected Black-owned architecture firms in the American South. She had designed courthouses, museums, a memorial park in Birmingham that made grown men weep. She wore her silver locks pinned up with an antique brooch, and she suffered no fools, least of all her own son. From the time Zara could walk, Celestine would sit with her on the wide veranda of her Cascade Road home, a drafting board between them, a glass of sweet tea sweating in the Georgia heat. She would point at buildings they could see from the street, the church steeple, the apartment block, the old shotgun houses with their narrow elegance, and she would ask Zara what she saw. "Go lines," Zara said once when she was about 5. "What kind of lines?" Zara thought about it. "Lines that are tired, like they need someone to remind them why they're standing." Celestine had looked at her granddaughter a long time after that. Then she'd reached over and squeezed her small hand and said, "Baby, you are going to change things." She taught Zara everything: structural load, negative space, how to read the mood of a site before you ever put pencil to paper. She taught her that architecture was not about buildings, it was about memory. It was about what a people chose to leave behind. Zara absorbed it all, like dry earth absorbs rain, completely, hungrily, without waste. Marcus also received lessons from Celestine, because Celestine was nothing if not fair. But Marcus sat through them the way rich boys sit through piano practice, obligatory, half-present, confident that the result would come to him regardless of the effort. He had, after all, been told his whole life that it was already his. When they were 17, Zara was accepted to the architecture program at Howard University on a full merit scholarship. She had submitted a portfolio in secret, working at Miss Dottie's kitchen table on weekends, scanning her sketches at the public library on Campbellton Road. When the acceptance letter arrived, addressed to her, hers alone, she held it to her chest in the driveway and let herself feel, for one quiet moment, but that she had done something real. She should have kept it secret longer. Vivian found the letter that same evening. There was a family dinner, Roland at the head of the table, Marcus already talking about which firms he'd intern at, which countries he'd study in, all of it bankrolled without question. When Vivian placed the letter on the table between the dinner plates, something shifted in the room. "Marcus will take that spot," Roland said. Not a question. Zara looked at her father. It was offered to me. And you'll give it to your brother. He needs the credential. Roland paused, adjusting his cufflinks. "You can find your own way, if you want it badly enough." Marcus didn't even look up from his plate. Zara did not scream. She did not throw anything. She folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope, and slid it across the table. Then she excused herself, walked to her room, sat on the edge of her bed in the dark, and then made herself a promise so quiet it barely disturbed the air. She was going to build something they could never take from her. She enrolled at Georgia State on a partial academic grant, worked nights at an architectural rendering firm downtown, and spent every free hour in the university library or at Celestine's drafting table. She graduated with honors. She got licensed. And she rented a studio apartment in West End, small enough that she could touch both walls if she stretched her arms. And she worked. Meanwhile, Marcus moved through the OC group on a velvet road, corner office by 25, lead architect title by 28, though the junior staff quietly understood that the real creative direction came from the senior partners, and increasingly, from somewhere unnamed. Clients liked Marcus. He was handsome, charming, good in a room. He knew how to wear architecture the way some men wear a watch, as a marker of status rather than a relationship with time. Zara's designs over those years had begun to circulate, not under her name. Vivian had discovered, through Miss Dottie's replacement, a young woman named Camille who was loyal to the household and not to Zara, that Zara kept her working sketches in a flat file she stored at Celestine's house during the week, bringing new work on Sundays. That Vivian had cultivated her access carefully, the way a careful woman does things, quietly, over time, with patience that looked like love. She would photograph Zara's drafts, clean them up, route them to the OC Group's project pipeline, where they would emerge attributed to Marcus, or to the firm's general portfolio. Zara, who submitted her best ideas to Celestine for safekeeping and her working drafts to no one, did not know how far the theft had gone. She only knew that sometimes, and at industry events, she would see something on a presentation screen and feel a physical sensation, like vertigo, of recognition. She told Celestine once. Celestine listened with her hands folded in her lap, her face very still. "Keep a record," Celestine said finally. "Date everything, sign everything, and never show them the last page." The Jubilee Monument Commission came along in the spring of Zara's 31st year. Yes, it was the kind of project that happened once in a generation, a federally funded memorial complex on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., honoring the legacy of Black American architects, builders, and visionaries across 4 centuries. The commission would go to a single firm or independent architect. The winning design would be constructed in granite and glass and reclaimed southern timber, and it would stand, they said, for centuries. The whole industry was buzzing. But the OC Group entered immediately. So did 14 other firms. Zara had been working on her concept for 2 years before the commission was ever announced, because she had not designed it for a competition. She had designed it for herself, for Celestine, for Miss Dottie, for every woman who had built something beautiful and watched a man put his name on it. The design was a series of interlocking pavilions arranged in a spiral, each one oriented to catch light at a different hour of the day, so that from sunrise to sunset, the complex moved through the full spectrum: gold, white, amber, the deep blue of late afternoon. At the center was an open atrium she called the threshold, a space with no ceiling and no walls, only columns, open to sky, designed so that any person who stood inside it was briefly, unmistakably held. It was the most alive thing she had ever made. She had been working late one Saturday, the final elevations spread across her studio floor, when she fell asleep in her chair. She had learned, from bitter habit, never to leave a complete design unguarded. But exhaustion is its own kind of betrayal. Camille had a key. Vivian had Camille. By Sunday morning, photographs of Zara's designs were in Vivian's possession. By Monday, they had been quietly routed to Marcus's submission file at the Ose group. Vivian had done this before. She knew which elements to lift, which pages to reconstruct. Yet she did not realize, could not have realized, because she had not looked carefully enough, because she never really looked at her daughter carefully enough, that Zara had anticipated her. The design that Vivian photographed was incomplete, not obviously, not in a way a non-architect would catch, but the spiral's geometric logic, the precise angular intervals that governed how each pavilion caught the light, the load-bearing calculations, that the structural key that held the entire atrium together, those lived in the last 3 pages, pages Zara had removed before she fell asleep and locked in a fireproof case at Celestine's house. The Ose group submitted Marcus's entry on the deadline. It was beautiful. It was striking. It was also, structurally, unresolvable. A design that looked complete, but had no working heart. Zara submitted her own entry as an independent architect 2 days before the deadline, under the name Z. Ose Design Studio, a name she had registered quietly 18 months earlier, with Celestine as her registered agent. The commission's review panel included 6 architects, 2 historians, and a structural engineer named Dr. Patricia Alcafor, who had no patience for beautiful things that didn't work. When she cross-referenced the Ose group submission with Z Ose's submission, the relationship between the 2 designs was, to anyone who knew what they were looking at, immediately apparent. But so was the difference. One design was a beautiful fragment, the other was alive. The call came on a Tuesday morning in late October, the Atlanta sky outside Zara's studio window, the particular shade of blue that only comes in fall. She answered on the second ring. Z Ose Design Studio had won the Jubilee Monument Commission. She sat down on the floor of her studio, not because her legs gave out, but because it felt right to be close to the ground, to the place where things are built from. But she pressed her palms flat against the cool concrete and breathed. Outside, the city moved the way cities do, indifferent, continuous, relentless. Inside, something that had been held under pressure for 31 years released, so slowly and so completely that she felt it move through her like a tide going out. She called Celestine first. "I know," Celestine said, before Zara could speak. Her voice was steady and warm and certain. And the way old buildings are certain, not because nothing has moved them, but because they were built to last. I always knew. The investigation that followed the commission announcement was not something Zara requested. Dr. Okafor, as a matter of professional due diligence, filed a technical discrepancy report with the commission board. The board hired an independent forensic architecture firm. The firm traced the design lineage, and the dates on Zara's time-stamped files, the scans from the library, the drafts witnessed and signed at Celestine's table over years, told the story without embellishment. Roland Ose resigned from the Ose Group board in the winter. Marcus, stripped of credits he had not earned, found himself standing in rooms where his charm no longer opened doors, because charm requires a foundation, and his had never been his own. Vivian, for her part, said nothing publicly. But on a cold February morning, and she appeared unannounced at Zara's studio. She stood in the doorway for a long moment, looking at her daughter at the drafting table, grown, composed, luminous in the light from the window, and she could not find a single word that was adequate to what she had done or what she had missed. Zara looked up. She did not smile. She did not rage. She simply looked at her mother with the clear, patient eyes of someone who had already done the most important thing. She had built something true, and it would stand. "I'm working," Zara said gently, and she returned to her draft. Ground was broken on the Jubilee Monument the following spring. Celestine Ose attended in a white linen suit and her best brooch, and when the ceremonial first stake was driven into the ground of the National Mall, she closed her eyes and let the sound of it settle into her bones like a homecoming. Zara stood beside her, blueprints rolled under one arm, the spring Washington sun on her face. She had not been given what she deserved. She had built it, and it would be remembered for centuries. If this story moved you, subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Like, share, and remember, in a world of power and pride, the real empire is built in silence. See you in the next story.